Hello and welcome back to this week's lesson in product management. We got a good one for you and let's jump right into it. So the topic for today is why great product managers never argue. Okay. And I'm clearly not a great product manager yet because I still fall prey to this where I find myself arguing in times when I shouldn't, and only when I sit back and reflect on the problems it creates to argue do I realize what I'm about to share with you. So I'm going to try to do better at this, and I hope that this advice helps you do better at this as you go about your week and about your months and about your years in product management, because it's really going to pay dividends. So why great product managers never argue. There's 3 points as to why, and then there's 3 counterparts about what to do about the first 3. So if that doesn't make sense, hopefully it'll make sense in just a second. Bear with me. You'll need to get to the end of the episode to make sure you get all of the advice, because it all kind of culminates together at the end. So number 1, great PMs should act like sponges, right? We should soak information in from anywhere and everywhere, because really a lot of the job is taking inputs, synthesizing those inputs, figuring out where do we need to get more data, whether it's quantitative or qualitative. How do we validate these things? How do we invalidate these other things, right? And that information is key. So if we're sitting arguing with customers or executives or stakeholders or team members, we're not going to get the information we need, and we're going to start shutting people off and closing people off to giving us that feedback that we absolutely need. Okay, number 2 is we can't assume we're always right. Right? We don't always have all the information. We rarely do. And the information we have is rarely perfect, right? The data we have is rarely perfect. And so thinking that we're right, or that we have all the information that has formed a hypothesis and therefore we can't be wrong, is a fallacy that is going to get us in trouble. And so we can't assume that we're right. We have to show some humility. Humility is key here. And start with the assumption that we're wrong and that we're looking for other information that can prove us wrong. Because at the end of the day, being wrong is not bad. Making decisions off of wrong information or false assumptions that leads to disastrous results in the market and for our business, now that's bad. That's what you want to avoid. So negative feedback to the route that you're going down, or to what you've prioritized, or what you think the data is telling you, that's good stuff. Like, you need to know those things. Okay, so that's number 2. Never assume you're right. Okay. Quick plug for my book, Never Assume the 10 Fatal Assumptions Great Product Managers Never Make. Never assume that you're correct is chapter number 1. Go get it on Amazon. You'll see the rest of the 9 chapters. It's good stuff. Okay, enough of my selfish plugs. Number 3, we need allies in the business, right? We could create the best product that there is, but if nobody talks about it, where our customers live, those channels that we talk to them, if that information never gets out through those channels to the people we need to talk to, if sales won't sell it, if customer support won't support it, it's not going to be a successful product, no matter how good it is, right? It can't stand on its own. No great organization exists only with a product organization, right? You need marketing, sales, customer support, and all the different organizations, legal, finance, etc., in order to make you successful. So don't alienate your allies. We cannot ship successful products on our own. Okay, so that's the 3, right? Here comes the caveat. We should have an opinion. We just don't always have to express it in an argumentative fashion, right? And this is where I could do a lot better. I get defensive sometimes, and we have to understand that we may have spent weeks crunching data, looking at the numbers, looking at the market, and we have all these inputs that we've synthesized, right? But we might be the only ones who have that, which is another problem in and of itself, maybe another episode for another time. But the people that we're talking to may not have the same context that we do, right? So 1, shame on us, and 2, be empathetic of that fact that they might not. All right, so we should have an opinion, but don't always be argumentative about it. We can state what that opinion is, but be willing to take in the opinions of others, right? However, another caveat, this doesn't mean we say yes to everything. because being a great product manager means that we cannot be order takers, right? We are not waiters or waitresses at a restaurant taking the order exactly as it is specified, right? We have to understand why we're getting the request that we're getting. What is the problem driving it? What is the opportunity driving it, right? We can't be order takers. So we have an opinion and we're not argumentative about it, but we don't say yes to everything. All right. So the logical question, and this comes up a lot on social media and conversations I have with newer or aspiring PMs, is how do I say no? And there's a lot of bad advice about how to say no. The typical advice you'll hear is, oh, I'll put it in the backlog, or I'll prioritize it for later. And in a lot of cases, you're giving false hope, and that it's just not a good thing to do, right? So the best way to say no is to not say no, right? What you do instead is ask questions. You ask for clarification. One, you want to make sure you understand, right? It's the same thing with your customers. When they ask for something, you try to get at the problem and you want to clarify. Am I understanding the problem correctly? Same thing internally with stakeholders, team members, executives. Ask for clarification. Don't just say no. And then ask for context. What do they know that they're not telling you that's driving that opinion or driving that suggestion or that's pushing back against the information that you have, right? Because you don't have every bit of information, especially if you're an individual contributor like I am. You don't sit in all the executive meetings, even though we might want to. We don't sit in those meetings with the C team. We don't sit in those meetings with the senior leaders or, the leadership in marketing or sales, whatever, right? So there may be conversations going on that you're not privy to. So ask for context and take that as input. And then lastly, ask for data, right? We as product people have to be really rigorous with our decisions. And so we're always gathering qualitative and quantitative inputs, right? Always taking in data, synthesizing that data and trying to make sense of it, right? Trying to form clarity out of chaos is one of the beautiful parts of this job. And so instead of saying no, ask for data, right? Ask why, ask what the data is that's telling them that this is a problem or something worth solving, right? Ask for data. Somebody may have anecdotal evidence that this could be a good thing that they're suggesting, but that's not the kind of rigor that we need as product people. So help other people in your organization understand how you make decisions. What is the calculus, or what is the formula, or what are the steps or processes you go through to make a decision, and ask them for that same information. Eventually, they'll catch on and start coming to you with that information. At first, it'll be, I'm upset because you're asking me for this. Why don't you just go do it? Then it'll be, hey, I have this thing. Do I need to fill out that form again? Or do I need to give you this information? And then it'll be, hey, here's the thing and here's the document already filled out, right? So it'll naturally progress that way if you're consistent with what you're asking your stakeholders or your team members or whoever you're asking for additional data from to go do. Eventually they'll pick up on it and start doing it proactively, which will save you a lot of time and trouble and headache and actually create, in my opinion, a better culture. So again, it's pointless to argue as a product manager, right? We have zero power. This is a commonly stated expression. We have to lead through influence because we don't have any formal power. Well, it's true. And we need allies across our company to get successful products shipped to market, okay? So let's recap. Next time you're tempted to argue, remember the 6 steps we just covered. 1, always accept and encourage feedback and counter opinions, okay? Number 2, never assume you're always correct, because we rarely are. Number 3, you need allies, so do not alienate them. Number 4, you should have an opinion, but be tactful in how you express it. Don't be argumentative. Number 5, don't say yes to everything. And number 6, but don't say no to anything. Use questions to put the ball back in the court of the requester, right? Take the stress off of yourself, put it back on them. If they want something and it's worth asking for, they will get you the information that you need and the organization will be better for it. Okay, so I hope these tips are helpful as you go about your week, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Lessons in Product Management.